It's 6:30.
It is 6:30. Okay, let's go ahead and get started this evening. I'd like to call to order the joint meeting of the town council and the Historic Preservation Commission on Tuesday, February 6th at 6:30 p.m. Before we go into roll call, I will have Terry, I call to order this meeting. I will have Terry call to order the Historic Preservation Commission meeting.
I'll call to order the Historic Preservation Commission and junction with the Town Council of Clarkdale today at February 6th at 6:30 p.m.
One thing I need to say to everybody is you will have to speak very loudly tonight because we're in this room, it kind of bounces and our wonderful, what is this called? Owl needs to hear all of you speak. So speak with your school voice and very succinctly. So that we can pick it up for our people who are on Zoom, and we have several people on Zoom tonight. Roll call for town council, Vice Mayor Hunsetter. Here. Councilmember Jones. Present. Councilmember O'Neill. Here. Councilmember Babbitt Pierce.
Present.
And note that Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. Terry?
Okay, roll call for the Historic Preservation Commission. Commissioner Biggins, here. Commissioner Stein.
Here.
Commissioner Linder. Present. Vice Chair Guard. Here. And President Gibson is present.
Please note we have a quorum for both historic preservation and the town council tonight. Item 3 is public comment. We invite the public to provide comment at this time. Members may of the two groups may not discuss items that are specifically identified on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please just raise your hand and I'll have you stand up. You have up to 5 minutes to speak. And if there's anybody who is on Zoom who wishes to speak, just raise your hand in the chat and Charity Brooks, our town clerk, will let you in. Is there anybody who wishes to give public comment?
We have Janet online. Janet, would you like to give a public comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Would
Go
you
ahead.
like me to,
Go
would
ahead,
you,
Janet.
would you like me to start, Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Clarkdale Town Council and members of the Clarkdale Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Janet Regner, residing at 610 Cliffside Drive, Clarkdale. I would like to comment on the Clarkdale Bandstand agenda item. I want to express my gratitude to the town for your efforts these past several months to employ the expertise of the advanced structural engineering firm to provide a professional and unbiased report of October 2023 to guide the town management as it relates to the bandstand. I am also grateful for the consultation the town engaged in with the State Historic Preservation Office to preserve the historic character of the bandstand, based on their analysis of the engineering firm's report provided to them in the fall of 2023. I agree with the staff recommendations relative to the bandstand rehabilitation, and specifically that they have recommended the State Historical Preservation Office's option 2, as stated in the staff report. I would like to point out that there are a number of individual Clarkdale citizens who have dedicated themselves to the preservation of Clarkdale's history, who have made Clarkdale their home for decades, and in some cases, generations, who over the past couple years were disparaged for their viewpoints regarding historic preservation. Their expressions to ensure the preservation of our town's history were criticized and diminished by town representatives, unnecessarily, in my opinion. Now that the town has invested in this recent analysis and has taken serious steps regarding historic preservation, in consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office. It is my hope that the mission and stated values of Clarkdale will be followed. The mission, as stated, we are the stewards of our history while we sustainably and resiliently plan for the future, with an emphasis on community engagement and transparency. Value number 3, preserving our history, charm, and environment. Thank you for the staff's diligent work on this important historic preservation issue. I hope this is the beginning of fruitful collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to give public comment? We, I suspect during the item on the bandstand that is coming up next, we will have an opportunity to also do public comment during that time. But we'll ask for that when we get there. So with that, if there's nobody else with public comment? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, which is new business, the Clarkdale Bandstand. Is to discuss, consider, and act upon the voluntary consultation report from the Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, regarding the rehabilitation of the bandstand. With that, I think a presentation by Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday. It's yours.
Thank you. Sure, so forward, just a real brief call, which you can talk for some of the.
Okay.
But I want you to share it with.
Sorry, I'm using my outside voice.
Yes. Definitely outside voice.
Sorry, Ruth, I have a horrible.
That's all right.
Mouth.
There we go.
Now I need to get this out of the way. Where did it go? Ah! How do I get that back?
This is not our usual setup, so it's all a little bit difficult. There we go.
All right, is that the first slide? Yeah, all right. So just to review real quickly, thank you. The advanced structural engineering report that was done last fall, provided us with 4 ways to proceed with the rehab or the reconstruction or rehabilitation of the bandstand. First, were minor corrections to just fix what was readily apparent and needed to correct. Second, were more extensive rehabilitation that was a little bit more detailed work. The third aspect was stop the deterioration, which is something that we all want to make sure we do. And then fourth was rebuild the structure. Okay, so the next one. So real quickly under minor corrections, included things like rework lumber connections, use some strong ties and things like that to firm up some of those rattly parts. And to replace some of the wood that had decayed over time and was rotting. We've seen pictures of the bottoms of those posts that are just falling apart. There is a roof joist that is split that definitely needs to be addressed. And then there are some lateral beams underneath the decking that were removed during the last rehab that the ASC felt strongly needed to be replaced because there isn't enough support to hold the weight that we had on the bandstand when we do use it for dances and things like that. So those were the minor corrections. The next level are these just to refresh your memory. You can see that central beam there. There's an arrow by the red. So there are 2 more beams that should be on each side of that. And those beams, like I said, were removed during the last rehab, and they provide quite a bit of support. It's 80% overloaded without those beams, so we really need to put those back. Next. More extensive rehab would be to replace all the columns, add bracing where necessary, re-roof and add a deck to relieve some of the shifting stress and add some more internal bracing in the roof structure. Rebuild the railings and replace those central floor support beams. 3 was to stop the deterioration. That included addressing the issues we have with ground contact, because it's sitting directly on concrete. And the wood members are wicking up that moisture, repaint the structure, and then develop a rigid maintenance and repair schedule so that we are keeping it repaired and maintained on a regular basis. And then 4th, I skipped number 4 because at the end of it all, Shippo said, don't do number 4. We don't need to, it's way more, it's too disruptive. The structure, there's enough of the structure that can be preserved and rehabilitated or rehabbed to maintain it in its current condition. So when we talked to Shippo about it, we talked them through the goals that council had, which and we talked about during the workshop, which were to maintain open access for the public, that it was in full compliance with building codes, that we could address all of these issues in one project, and that we're not going back and piecemealing, and that it would maintain the historic integrity that it needs to remain on the National Register of Historic Places. Next. So, basically what Shippo recommended was to do 1 and 2, which is not rebuild the structure, repair the structure. No, not rebuild the structure, not recommended, excuse me. More extensive rehab is what they did recommend, and that would include all of the things in the minor repair section as well in number 1. And then number 3 was the water management. Again, we have the issue, of course, with the wood coming up and rotting. And their suggestion, their recommendation was for option 2, which was to construct piers, to trim and replace the posts, so that the piers would lift those posts up off the ground and away from water contact, and that they would be covered with siding so that you would not notice that work had been done. Option 1 included raising the structure a foot, which would the state architect felt could have an adverse impact on the visual and therefore did not recommend. I think that's it. Next steps. So once we discuss tonight what the consensus of council and the Historic Preservation Commission is with respect to the Shippo report, we will be updating the contract with Woodruff and send them recommendations from Shippo, so they have a copy of everything and they can roll that into the update to the contract. We'll get a contract back with them with detailed specifications. Staff will review it. They make notes. Sometimes they have things we have questions about, certain, especially electrical components, to make sure that we have the electrical equipment we need so we can plug in more amps and music things so we can project better. And then that will go directly to town council for any changes if necessary, and then we will issue a revised notice to proceed and get it under construction. Should I be happy to answer any questions that you have?
Okay.
Just a point of clarification. If there's not, it would be the scope in the contract that may change. But if there's no change to the cost, I'm thinking we probably won't need to take it back to council because it's like a change order.
Right, because most of it will likely be handled as a change order because the changes that have been made since the last time, probably at the end are all going to be.
That's what I think too.
Let's go ahead and ask questions of staff, just sort of what, yes.
I assume you've probably been in constant contact with Woodruff,
Yes.
and you have a sense of how they're feeling about, the alterations that have been suggested?
Yep, they're, like I said, we've talked to them several times, over the course of this review with Shippo. Like I said, we sent them, they received a copy of the engineering report once it was completed. And they have a set of the recommendations from Shippo and they're ready to go, just through the numbers. So.
And they were on site with the engineering firm
Right.
as well.
So they're well aware of what was going on and what recommendations would like to be.
Share the screen.
So our hope is that it'll come in right on par with
I
it.
expect it to come in pretty close. Like I said, there are differences, but they're probably gonna balance out in the long run.
Okay. Other questions, comments,
Commissioners,
commissioners?
seeing none. Oh, one.
Would there be any opportunity for the commission, Historic Preservation Commission? to
Matt, could you
review-
speak up?
I'm sorry, to review the contract changes or review the contract as it's in play? I mean, we don't really have any details about what will happen, so.
Well, that was the previous Woodruff contract. If you have not seen it, I'm happy to provide it to you.
Other questions, comments?
It certainly seems like this meets all of the needs that we've been talking about for months. That the structure will be available, it will be accessible, and we won't be back here in 5 years trying to figure out how to fix it again.
And it'll be safe.
Yes.
Other comments,
That's the plan.
other questions you have? If not, I'll open up to the public to make comment on what you've seen. Yes, come on up, please stand up and please state your name and say it as loud as possible so we can pick it up on our Zoom link. Thank you.
I'm Cynthia. I live, in Clarkdale, on Main Street. Madam Mayor, council members, commissioners, thank you for doing all of this. Really appreciate it. This looks really good. It's, looks like exactly what the constituents of Clarkdale asked for. I wanted to urge, the council to do 1, 2, and 3, not 4. One exception is on the more extensive rehabilitation. I want to urge them not to replace the columns for a couple of reasons. Most of the.
Replace the what,
repairs-
Cynthia? We're having trouble hearing you.
Okay, most of the repairs that they're suggesting are not visible. Removing the columns are very visible. And the only problem with the columns is at the bottom. It also says on here, insertion of new columns would likely entail significant customization of all the affected connections to each column. They are a little bit twisted. It doesn't say that in this report, but I remember from the first report, the engineer saying it may have been built with twisted columns, which would make sense because they wouldn't have wasted wood back then. And if it's not affecting its structural integrity, I want to urge the columns stay in place with this bottoms. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment at this time? It's awfully quiet. It's all good? Yes, George.
George Knotts, 170 Main Street. My one question is, handicap access. Are the options a elevator?
We haven't even discussed the options for, that yet, either for, a lift or a ramp.
Ramp.
That has not been discussed.
My recommendation for these elderly vans that play there is to put in an elevator, a lift. It would retain the beauty of the structure. A winding ramp of any type, in my opinion, diminishes the beauty of the structure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Let's make a point of order that the commission has discussed this in details, and we have favored a lift over a ramp. So, although no decision has been made about it.
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, okay.
I think you put it down there, thank you. Any comments from council or commission? Yes.
Thank you. Bob, I want to ask you, because I don't know much about building. Cynthia's comment about the columns, is it structurally possible to replace just the bottoms and not the top?
You gotta talk to engineers that actually did more investigating, and there's a possibility. Because you're gonna take off about 12 inches anyway, which may be part of the problem. But you actually cut it off and really see what kind of shape it lives in internally, because things like rock will be instant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes,
I have a
please come up
question.
and state your name.
Baby Gwen, 506 Main Street, Clarkdale. I just have a question. You had, Martin, you had said something like, that this plan addressed everything you've been hearing from the town. And I can't remember the three things you said, but am I right that if it stays, in line with the qualifications for a national, historical, designation, that means, what is it exactly does that mean? And secondly, what I have been hearing so much from the town, and is a concern that it remain historical, that, in addition to the three pages.
I'm gonna let the assistant town manager.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ruth, go ahead and then please
Yeah,
address.
so in short, yes, this is why we went to SHPO, because the concerns were that some of the issues that we were seeing with the bandstand that were related to code items, we wanted to make sure if we correct them, that they would remain on the national register. So for instance, the railing doesn't really meet modern code, that the cross members and the cabling, because there was an orange room,
Yeah.
but you can't have more than 4 inch space between those cables. So we would have to reconfigure those cables to meet modern code. Is that going to affect it? So those are the kinds of things that we discussed with SHPO, and that's why we went to them for consultation, and they verified that what we're proposing to do, other than raise the flood, which we're not doing, would not, as they say, have adverse impact on the structure. So it will remain on the edge. Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the replacement of the columns. So the original engineer came back with a change to his report that recommended the changing, replacement of the columns. And so this Historic Preservation Commission discussed that and concurred to that with the stipulation that the true dimensional lumber be used to replace the columns, even if it needed to be custom milled. And that would preserve the actual look and architectural detail. Also at a subsequent meeting, more recently, related to something that's not in this particular report, but had discussed the fascia along the roof line. That fascia is not original to the structure. It actually detracts from the structure, it looks. And during the last renovation, it was added and nearly immediately started to rot. So I would recommend that that be one of the fine details that gets incorporated into the final construction plan. That fascia that's not original to the structure be deleted.
Wait, where was the picture that you were hunting?
It's along the roof line.
The roof line, thank you.
Ruth, could we, Ruth, so if that becomes part of a motion, could we just make sure that, because, you know, we have our report from SHPO, and that's what we're gonna try to stick to. And that wasn't, I don't believe, addressed. So if you make that in your motion, could you make sure that you say, if allowed by SHPO?
Now, because we need to review that with the engineer to make sure that it doesn't affect the structure we're intended to.
Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
The SHPO recommendation is also to create a maintenance plan the building, which I would recommend would be a good job for the commission. That's something that we recommended back in June or July. Happened when it was there.
Do I get a feel, hold on. Before we go much further, are we in, more comfortable with the, more extensive rehabilitation or stop the deterioration? I'd like to get a feel for that.
More extensive rehabilitation.
Hmm?
I thought it was the more extensive rehabilitation and then stop the deterioration.
Both together?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
That was my.
Sorry. Okay. Yes, Cynthia, please stand up. Stand up, but I can't, I'm sorry, this room is just awful.
Are there any in here? I just have one question. If we do, everything up to the mark and stop the deterioration, if we do all that, is it necessary to leave the columns in place or those cables in place?
Yes, yes.
Because you don't want kids poking their heads through it.
It has to meet the code for, safety of, people going through the railing, I should say, right? Is that correct? Yes, it has to meet the 4-inch requirement for safety. Any other questions? Okay, we went through a lot. We've had good workshops. We had great feedback from SHPO. It looks like we are to the point of needing a motion. Because tonight with this motion, and it will come a motion from both council and HPC to move forward with the work that needs to get done. So it's not redoing a contract, it's working with the contractor to amend it to meet the scope of what we want to have done. So that is the essence of the hopefully the motion that will come forward tonight. So, if,
I think this would be
HPC,
a,
why don't you start
all
first?
part of the commission. If it would please the other commissioners, I'll take a shot at their motion. When they are concerned. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that this commission approve the letter, which is the January 9th, 2024 letter from the Arizona State Parks and Trails State Historic Preservation Office regarding the ASC report, page 5 of 19, regarding and the commission approving and recommending to the city, the town council, that they approve the rehabilitation and the stop deterioration option 2 found on page 5 of 19 of the ASC report of October.
I second.
It's your motion to finish.
Are there any discussion items? Anybody want to discuss the motion and a second? Comment.
My reading of the recommendations is that they're cumulative. And so that you're doing the minor corrections as well as the more extensive rehabilitation. And I'm not sure if that was really clear to everybody.
That was my understanding, right?
Yes, it's my understanding.
Based on the reading of this letter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks.
So hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. I hear 5-0. So I will pass the motion or approve motion to the town council for their action.
Thank you. Is there a motion from council?
Madam Mayor, I motion that the town council, approves the recommendations from the Historic Preservation Commission and approved in the voluntary consultation report from the State Preservation Office regarding rehabilitation of the bandstand, which includes minor corrections
extensive rehabilitation and the stopping of the deterioration of the bandstand. As recommended by the.
And can we add to that, to, direct town manager to work?
And direct the town manager Guthrie to carry out this work forward.
To amend the scope of work with
Amend
the,
scope of work.
with the contractor.
Now you can say that again.
We just need to get that in there. Okay, are we clear of the motion? All of you? Okay, hearing no questions on the motion, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. Wow, we are on. We are on future agenda items. Do we have any from council? I don't think so. Historic Preservation Commission, do you have any agenda items?
Further discussion item?
Further agenda items, I think you should follow also their recommendation that we were going to make. I'm sorry.
Okay, so, so for. So, we have one future agenda item would be to, for this commission. Is to, work on the maintenance program. For said, rehistoric visible. That, call for adjournment.
Stephanie?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second and approved, all those in favor, aye. Okay, we're adjourned, thank you.
They're adjourned. Any future agenda items, if we have none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and second by Councilmember Babish Pierce to adjourn the council meeting at 7:02 p.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming tonight.
Good job.